All right, can you hear me? No. There you go. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Laura Forbes. I'm an assistant district attorney in the Westchester County DA's office. We are the largest law enforcement agency in the county of Westchester. We currently have the district attorney is Mimi Roca, is an elected position, and we are all as ADAs appointed under her. I am assigned to the Cyber Crimes Bureau, which is a specialized bureau set up specifically to combat internet crimes, as well as assist in any sort of investigations or prosecutions in which there's digital evidence. So as such, I see a lot. We love coming out to talk to people in schools. We love talking to parents. We love meeting with the police officers from the local jurisdictions as well. And we talk to parents, and we also talk to kids. We need to get the message out about internet safety. When I talk about internet safety, we're not only just talking about the World Wide Web, www, but we're also talking about what's on our cell phones, what's on our mobile devices. So we need to get the message out that we need to accomplish two things. Number one is we need to keep our kids safe. We need to keep our kids from becoming victims of crimes. A lot of them, they don't realize what's happening until it's too late. So we want to give kids the tools and let them know things to look out for, and want to give parents the tools so that they can look out for things that their kids are doing online. That's number one. Our second goal also is to keep kids from becoming targets of investigations. A lot of times, kids think, and adults too, think that what they're doing on social media, what they're doing on the internet is funny. They think that what they're doing is just a prank. However, they're wrong. And what we don't want to have is an investigation that leads us to a 9-year-old. And that does happen very often. In the DA's office, we are only permitted to prosecute adult offenders. However, in the Cyber Crimes Bureau and in the High Technology Crime Squad, which is the forensic squad that I work with, we investigate all types of activities involving social media. And that ranges from bomb threats, school threats, harassment online, posting of false profiles, and the sexual exploitation of children. We work under the assumption that it is an adult who is the perpetrator. We do not want to have to go to a judge and get a search warrant and come banging on somebody's door at 6 a.m. only to find out that it's an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old child. And it does happen. And the parents aren't aware, and a lot of times the kids aren't aware that what's happening is that what they were doing was criminal. So we want to work with you, and we want to work with your children to make sure that they are safe, but that also they're acting in a responsible way as well. The internet and social media is not bad on its own. There's great resources, especially we've seen that during COVID. But there are things that can happen, and we need to avoid that. Similarly, we don't say that cars are bad because sometimes people crash in them, right? So we have to learn to be responsible. So what I wanted to spend some time talking to you about are some of the things that we're seeing online, both with children as victims and children as targets of investigations. Bring those to your attention, and also have an opportunity to give you some parent tips. So I'll go through some things in greater detail than others, because we are seeing that although there are a lot of issues out there, really there seems to be an ebb and flow of offenses. So I want to let you know a little bit of everything and really focus on some of the things that we see most in the school districts today. So first off, there is a caveat. There is no such thing as cyberbullying. I will not be talking about cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is a term that came up. There are some jurisdictions, some states, I'm sure, that have a crime called cyberbullying, but we don't have that in the state of New York. And that's okay. We don't have to have a law that says cyberbullying. That's because we have a lot of laws that are already in place that allow us to investigate cases that take place on social media. And that is because everything that is on a handheld device, first of all, this is actually considered a computer in the state of New York. Same thing with mobile phones. It's not just the desktop computers. arguably even your washing machine that you can text and keep it in the de-wrinkle mode. Arguably, that's a computer these days. So everything that is on, every piece of data that is on a digital device is considered a written instrument in the state of New York. So it's really handy because that means that we can look to all of the statutes that are in effect for crimes that involve writing and paper. So if it can happen on paper, and it can happen in the mail, it can happen on the internet, and we can prosecute it under the old school theories, if you will. So for example, in a situation that we're seeing where we've got people who go onto social media and they decide that they want to bully somebody, they want to harass somebody or alarm them by creating a false social media profile and affect that person, we can prosecute under a theory of forgeries. So what I mean by that is the forgery statute is with intent to deceive, defraud, or injure somebody else. You're creating a forged instrument that causes harm to that person. So putting it in English, so let's say that somebody here is very upset that I'm at this presentation, that they feel that I've wasted their time. So they have found pictures of me on social media and now they've created an Instagram account. But instead of an Instagram account just saying, I don't like ADA Laura Forbes, person actually creates an Instagram account that looks like it's from me. It's in my name, Laura Forbes. And they take all of those pictures and put them up on Instagram. And then as they're posting, they're pretending that it's me and saying such terrible things like, my name is Laura, I can't stand coming to Rye, I can't believe I wasted my time here, this is such a terrible place, I never want to come back, I hate my job, etc., etc. And then I get in trouble at work because somebody's going to say, how could you say all this in writing? This is terrible, you're fired. Well, then I come back and say, that wasn't me, I didn't do it. Somebody forged a social media page in my name. That is a crime in the state of New York. A forged social media page, a forged email account, so if somebody does the same thing but using an email account, that is just as serious in the state of New York as a fake driver's license, as a fake credit card, as a fake check, as a fake prescription pad. So it's not a prank. And if it happens to your child, you have every right to take it to the school or to the police, because if it gets them in trouble in school, if it affects their ability to live their day-to-day lives, that's an issue. And we also want to impress upon other kids, too, that that's not the way that you play jokes on people. That's not the way that you go after people if you don't like them. We also have seen a lot of harassment online where people are texting or posting on social media horrible comments. I think you should kill yourself. You're horrible. If you when I see you in the parking lot at 9 a.m., I'm going to punch you in the face. All these statements where somebody is in fear for their personal safety. Now, we do have the First Amendment. However, as the old case law says, a person doesn't have the right to shout fire at a crowded theater, which means you're not allowed to say something that causes this mass panic and alarm. So you can't say things in writing that will scare somebody. And it doesn't matter whether it's anonymous or they put their names on it. So if I get a text on my phone that says, I hate you, you wasted my time, I'm going to punch you in the face when you walk out to your car, I'm going to find that alarming. And even if there's a little emoji with a smiley face, that's not funny. And I have the right to go to the police and just say there's an issue here. So the rule of thumb is, if you don't say it to somebody in person, you shouldn't be saying it online. We also don't have the element of context. If somebody comes up to me and says something like that in a joking way, and I can actually see their face, maybe I can appreciate the fact that it's a joke. But in writing, all bets are off. We are also seeing a lot of instances of stalking online. And so stalking, back in the old days, stalking was, I'm here, somebody's in the back of the room watching, and I leave, the person follows me, I go to my car, they follow me in my car, they follow me home, but then I go in the house, and I close the door, and I set the alarm, and I know that I'm okay, until the next morning when I go outside. However, we don't have that these days, because these are always on. These are always on. So what we're seeing are kids being stalked online, this constant either posting about them or posting on their sites or taking unflattering or embarrassing pictures and putting them up on social media or texting them to each other. It's a singular focus on a singular child, a singular person, and it affects their mental health and well-being and causes them to fear for their personal safety. And unfortunately, we're seeing around the country that kids who are being harassed like this, kids who are being stalked like this, are hurting themselves or worse. So we have to be aware and cognizant of how other people feel about our online commentaries about them and what we're doing and how it's making them feel. There is another person on the other side of these communications. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that. I think our kids are so used to this that they're not having that emotional connection, and they need to realize that there's a person on the other side of this device who has feelings and who could be affected. So we have to be really careful. And we have to watch out and watch our children to see if there's any signs of them being harassed online as well. So we have to be careful. We're also seeing a lot of threats, other types of threats. We're seeing bomb threats to schools and threats of mass shootings. Back in the day, we would have kids who didn't want to take a calculus test, so they would just use the payphone and call the police. And everybody would go outside. It was a nice day. Police would come. They'd look around. They'd say, there's nothing to see here. And they would go back inside. And guess what? We all had to take the calculus test again. That's not what we're seeing these days. First of all, it wasn't funny back then. It was still criminal back then. But now we're seeing kids who are posting on social media, on Twitter. They're calling the schools. They're calling the police departments, posing as other people, alleging that there are mass shootings going to happen, or that there's a horrible occurrence that's happening in somebody's house, there's a hostage situation. That is called swatting. Because obviously, if the City of Rye dispatch gets a call that there's a kidnapping or a murder or a hostage situation at somebody's house, of course they're going to respond. They're going to respond to that house. And they're going to bring the SWAT teams and the ambulance and the fire department and the police cars, because this is important. And then they get there and there's just somebody there who says, I don't know what's happening. Usually it happens in the gaming community when people are gaming online and something happens online, they get into a fight. The other person will then call the police department because they found out where the victim residence is, and they don't even realize this is happening. This is an extremely serious offense for a number of reasons. First of all, people can get hurt in that residence. What happens if somebody comes to the front door and they're armed, or they don't understand what's going on, which is completely understandable? What happens if the police or the law enforcement, the fire department, the bomb squad, the helicopter, whoever comes, gets into a crash because they're all rushing to get to that house where there's actually nothing there? Or what happens if there's somebody actually across this town who does need help, who's actually, their house is on fire, or they are in the middle of a hostage situation, or they're having a heart attack, and they can't get the help they need because they're at somebody else's house answering a bogus call. This is an extremely dangerous situation, and we're trying to impress on kids that this is not a joke. And there are a lot of times where kids are actually online and they see, hey, if you keep this up, I'm going to SWAT you. Well, you know what? Maybe it's time to stop gaming and tell somebody. They've got to be responsible and come forward and mention something. So at least there is a response that the police department can at least anticipate something happening. We also are seeing there's a lot of these social media challenges. I know TikTok is really popular. We're seeing a lot of TikTok challenges where kids are being encouraged to commit criminal offenses. We've seen instances like slap a teacher. We've seen instances of kids vandalizing schools and filming it and putting it out there for all the world to see. Now, certainly there are more kids who don't partake. However, what we've got to ask our kids is, when we're looking at these TikToks and the kids are laughing, what's so funny about it? Why is it amusing? Why do they feel they need to spend 30 seconds watching this TikTok of a teacher being slapped, or a car being broken into, or a bathroom being vandalized, or somebody choking themselves out until they faint? What is it about that? And if they're not part of the solution, they're part of the problem. People are getting encouraged by the numbers of views on these TikTok pages. They're being encouraged, hey, look, that one got 1 million followers. Let me try to do this too. And are they getting themselves wrapped up in criminal mischief or vandalism or assault or sexual assault? So impress on the kids, what are we doing when we're watching TikTok or any other social media profile, any other social media platform, because there's reels on all sorts of social media. So we've got to be aware of that. So when your child asks to view TikTok, ask them why. What is it? Because if there's just cat videos, just go on some other page where you're not also going to be seeing all this destruction and the support of bad behavior. At this point, I'll just say we also have 2 members of the Rye Police Department here. So I do want to introduce them and just see if there's anything else that you want to add on those topics. Come on up. And feel free to introduce yourself as well.
So, I'm Officer Jones, your Rye Police Department. My partner.
I'm Officer Kathy Hackney.
So we're here to address any questions you may have that are police related or any, related to any topic that the ADA may bring up. But that's really, we're just another resource for you. We're here 24/7, obviously. So call anytime. Call the desk if it's non-emergency. You could always ask the desk sergeant. But yeah, we're just a resource for you, and we're glad to be here today. So.
But you're also in the schools too, right?
I am in the school, yeah. I'm a juvenile officer, so is my partner here. I'm in Midland primarily. I was here at the beginning of my, juvenile officer career, walking around and whatnot with the youth detective. But yeah, we are in every school. There's, an officer assigned. So you'll see us around, popping in and out.
Yeah, and starting in a couple of weeks, we'll have 2 officers per school.
Yeah, so we a little bit more of a presence. But Monday to Friday, we have a detective. His sole job is dedicated to the schools and our youth, and then whenever we're in our rotate schedules, we pop in and out. So you'll see us around. All right. Do you have any questions? Not really. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
You got it.
So one of the other things that we see is really one of the primary issues that we deal with when we talk about schools. And those are online sex offenses. Children, for the purposes of online sex offenses in New York State, is under the age of 17. I know kids don't like to be called children, and when I've spoken to kids who are age 16, they certainly don't like being told that they are children, but that's what the law says. The day they turn 17, they are no longer considered children, so under the age of 17. Now, the issue, though, is that our law and our office, DA's office and law enforcement, including the Rye Police Department, will do everything we can to protect your children. However, children also have to be aware that they can be investigated as well for online sex offenses. They can also be prosecuted by the family court system as well. So I just want to give you a little bit of an overview of the 2 main types of online sex offenses that we see. We see sexting, which is the common term for texting and sexual communications, and that's texting over social media, as well as texting over mobile devices. And we're also seeing what under the New York State law is called obscene sexual performances of children, what is colloquially has been known as child pornography, but we don't call it that really anymore because child pornography really does not capture what it actually is. So in my area of expertise, we actually call it child sexual abuse material because that's what this is. When we see images of children engaged in sexual conduct either by themselves or with others or lewdly exposing their private areas, that is the capturing of the moment that a child is being sexually abused and is incredibly serious. There are a few things in this country and in the state of New York that are considered contraband, that just possessing them is against the law. There are things that we all know, heroin, cocaine, assault rifles, that kind of thing. But child sexual abuse material is also one of them. Just possessing it, other than for the purposes of law enforcement, is against the law. And even kids possessing images can be considered against the law as well. So first, I'll just talk about sexting. So in the law, we don't have something called sexting, but we have something called disseminating indecent material to minors. That is a felony in the state of New York. It does not require actual physical sexual conduct to happen. The statute says that somebody has to importune, induce, or invite a person, a child, somebody they know to be a child, to engage in sexual communications for the other person's benefit. It can be in writing. It doesn't even have to be sending and receiving pictures. It could just be in writing. There does not have to be a physical meet afterwards. There does not have to be sexual conduct. Just the words are enough. And that is a felony in the state of New York, as I said. It is also a registrable sex offense under Megan's Law. So it is incredibly serious. And in the state of New York also, even if within the peer group, so 2 people under the age of 17, it could still be considered a crime in the state of New York. We also see there's something called extortion. This is one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now in this area, in the county of Westchester, and actually across the country. We are seeing kids, especially boys, who are on social media, and by social media I also mean gaming as well, and they're being approached by someone, usually who is portraying themselves as a girl, asking to have communications. The communications at first are benign, and then after that they say, well, let's take it to some other social media platform, usually Snapchat or Kik, something where the users think that nobody will be able to get copies of the conversations. The conversations very quickly, sometimes in the same night, can turn sexual. The girl asks the child's victim for sexual pictures of themselves. The child will send a sexual picture, and now all of a sudden the child is being extorted. Send me an Apple gift card. Send me money with Cash App. Send me money via Zelle. Send me gaming gift cards, and I won't expose all of these pictures out. I won't send them out to your friends and family. And a lot of times these kids are doing it. And we're seeing these kids are younger and younger and younger. We're seeing 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, not realizing that the person they're talking to is not somebody who they think. Kids have to learn that if they are talking to somebody online who they have never met, they don't know who they're talking to. And I encourage parents to know the same thing. If you are permitting your children to talk to people online that you have not met in real life, you don't know who they're talking to. When we get these cases, many, 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 many times, these people aren't even in this country. Who they think they're talking to, they think they're talking to a teenage person living here in Westchester County. They're not. Typically, they're out in West Africa. We're talking Nigeria and the Ivory Coast. And you can research it online. There's been press releases. The FBI did a huge article about it. This is an epidemic. This is an epidemic. So we need to encourage our children to only talk to people that they know. And they have to know them in real life and then start talking to them online, not the other way around. Kids are very trusting when they're online. Very trusting. But when I talk to kids, and I encourage you to discuss this as well with them, I try to turn it around a little bit. There is actually a federal law called the Child Online Privacy Protection Act. And that law says that if an internet provider feels that there might be some content on their sites that would be inappropriate or potentially inappropriate for kids under the age of 13, they have to take steps to make sure that only people over the age of 13 are using their system. So what happens is the companies, when at the time of registration, say, how old are you? And they could ask for a date of birth, a year of birth, just a checkbox, whatever, but they have to take some steps that the person is actually over the age of 13. However, you can ask your kids. We do have a lot of kids who are not over the age of 13, but are logging onto these websites. They're setting up accounts because they want the full experience. They know that if they're under 13, they either will not be able to get onto the app at all, or they'll be transferred to a lighter version of the app, and they don't want that. So they'll say that they're over the age of 13 just so they can get full functionalities of all of the apps, and they're 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. So if they're not being truthful so they can get onto these apps, why are they assuming that everyone they're talking to on these apps are being truthful about who they are? Now, I'm not making any judgments on parents who are allowing their kids on these pages before they turn 13. I'm just asking you to talk to them about it. That if you decide that you want your child to be on these apps, that's between you and your child. But you've got to make it very clear to them, and you've got to be aware that not everybody online is who they say they are. We have many, many children who are talking to sexual predators online, and they don't even know it. We have individuals, I had a defendant who we put in state prison who posed as an online as a teenage girl. And he was in his 20s. In his 20s, we found videos that he was getting girls to record to send to him. And when we asked him what he was doing with the videos, he said he was trading them with like-minded individuals. And we found some of these kids who he was talking to, they had no idea. They had no idea. We had another situation where we had a defendant who was posing online as a teenage boy, and he got a 12-year-old girl to talk to him. She had no idea that he was 49 years old at the time, married with a child. She had no clue. She thought that she had a boyfriend online, and she would never have spoken to this guy if she actually knew that he was a 49-year-old man. And this person was very good. She would have had no idea, because that's what they do. This is their hobby. Some of us like to go home and we knit, or we cook, or we listen to music, or we watch sports. When some of these predators come home from work, this is what they do. Their singular focus is to talk to kids online. So we really have to be careful. We have to watch what our kids are doing online. We have to be invested in what they're doing online. We have to keep those lines of communication open, and we also have to recognize the signs if our children are suddenly becoming agitated, if they're looking at their devices at weird times, if they're putting their devices down quickly when you walk in the room. All of these things that might seem like abnormal behavior beyond the normal behavior of a teenager, it might be the time to start having a conversation with them. And now discussing obscene sexual performances of children, what we call child sexual abuse material. Just asking a child for a picture of them in a sexually provocative way is a C felony in the state of New York that can get 5 to 15 years in state prison. Knowingly possessing an image of a child is an E felony in the state of New York that can also get state prison, sex offender registry. And if you get one of these pictures and then pass them along knowing that it's a child, that's also a D felony in the state of New York. So we take this very seriously. When we see instances in the schools where it might be a dating relationship where one child sends his or her boyfriend, girlfriend, a picture of themselves, and that picture gets sent around the school, that's a really big deal. That's a really, really big deal. And kids need to realize that this material is dangerous. They don't realize it's dangerous. This can follow them around. This information can be permanent. I don't care that Snapchat says that information can disappear. It doesn't disappear. All it takes is to have two devices. If I have a tablet with my Snapchat on it and I've got my cell phone, I could take a picture of that snap, and now I've got a permanent record of it, and it doesn't matter. And I can do whatever I want with it. Kids need to understand this. So we've got to really, really keep open the lines of communication. So with that, you're probably wondering if there's any tips and guides and things you can do to try to keep your house a little bit more secure. And the answer is yes. Number one, talk to your children. Keep open lines of communication. I am confident that your first conversation about their online behavior is going to be awkward. If you haven't had the conversation, it's going to be awkward. If you have had the conversation, you know it's been awkward. But back in the day of Nancy Reagan, she had this drug campaign, if you don't talk to your children about drugs, who will? The same thing is about this. If you don't talk to your children about online dangers, who will? You don't want their first time learning being because they're a victim or because they've done something that they think is a prank, and it actually is not a prank. It could be something that could be criminal. You've got to keep those lines open. We already talked to our kids about the dangers of drinking and driving, the dangers of teen dating, the dangers, just general stranger danger. Don't go to the park alone at night. We don't send our kids on the train to go to Times Square at 2 o'clock in the morning. We teach them about all of that. Don't get into the van when somebody pulls over and says, do you want to look at the puppy that I've got in the van? We teach them all that. Why are we not teaching them that who they're talking to online is most likely not who they think they're talking to? We've got to take that stranger danger and put it into online. If you need help facilitating a conversation, there's great resources out there. There's a website called netsmartskids.org, netsmartskids.org, netsmartskids.org. That is a website run by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. That's a website and an organization that we rely on a lot for a lot of our tips on people in Westchester County who are trading and disseminating sexual performances of children. They have a great resource. It's age appropriate, it's for teachers, it's for police, for law enforcement, for schools. There's a lot of great resources there, and that will help facilitate some age appropriate conversations. So you talk to your kids, but you also have to make sure that your house is secure as well. So a couple of tips we picked up along the way. Secure all of your devices. No child needs unlimited data. None. You can limit data. I encourage you to talk to each other, talk to your telephone provider about shared plans and limiting data. This goes for telephones as well as for tablets. When your child asks for a phone, by the way, they're not asking for the phone. They're asking for a smartphone. They're asking for internet capabilities. So just be aware of that and be prepared that there are ways that you can limit data so that they're not online all the time. Then when they run out of data, they'll have to rely on their Wi-Fi. So the other tip then is to gain access to your Wi-Fi system, to your router, to your modem. The companies today offer a lot of parental tips. There's ways of securing your router so that there are blackout periods, so that if your child is home alone for 2 hours during the day, that you can keep it limited, you can black it out. So if your child runs out of data and now there's no Wi-Fi, then they can't access the internet while you're not at home. Similarly, you can also turn it off at night. If you have an online curfew, so to speak, you can control that. The key is that you have to be the keeper of the passwords. You can't share the passwords with your children. And that's important for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's important to keep your child safe. But it's also important because that means that your child will not be sending your passcode, your password out to other people. So if they've got friends over, they're not sharing the password. That's where the parental controls come in. We've had many situations with adults as well, not just children, where we've gone into homes because we suspect there's criminal activity that happened online that's taking place in that home, but it actually wasn't even by a resident. It was somebody who was there who had access to the Wi-Fi and either committed something criminal while in the house or stored the password and later sat in the backyard and committed crimes using it. So just lock down your wireless, and that's a good tip for anybody anyway. Similarly, secure your app store of choice. Secure that password. That will keep your child from downloading apps without your permission. So if your child wants to download Snapchat or TikTok or Kik, I'm picking anything, and you want it run by you first, if you secure the password, if you set up parental controls, it gives you an opportunity to talk to your child and, more importantly, discuss with your child what the necessity is for the app, ground rules for the app. And it also will give you time to research that app, to decide whether you as a parent or a guardian want your child actually on there. There are a lot of great resources out there. There's a lot of great parent guides. All you even have to do is go on the internet, type the name of the app, and put in parent review, and you can get a lot of reviews, and you can decide on your own whether you even want to start having the conversation with your child about having that app. If you do allow your child to be on social media, whatever app you choose, you need to learn everything about that app. You need to know the ins and outs and how people communicate, who's sharing, go over friends lists, followers lists. You need to know who is watching your child. And also set down some ground rules. Even picking a screen name. Don't pick a screen name with identifying information, with a date of birth, with an age, with a zip code. Best advice, gender neutral. Nothing to do with date of birth, nothing to do with graduation year. If there's a profile picture, not your child's profile picture, not a picture of your child. Because there are some people who go out and look for pictures of the age group that they're looking for. And it's just not necessary. I do it as an adult. It's a way that I'm safe online as well. Also, talk to your kids about tagging where they are. Not everybody needs to know that they're at Fairburger. They don't need to know. They don't need to know that you're on vacation and that your house is empty for a week. So this is all part of just being a responsible digital citizen. Adults don't do it. They shouldn't be doing it, so kids shouldn't be doing it either. And also talk to other parents. A lot of times kids will say, but everybody else has that app. My best friend has that app, and my best friend's other best friend has that app. Well, maybe all the parents should get together and have a conversation and collectively decide whether they should all have this app, because there's safety in numbers. And collectively as a group, you could maybe take that peer pressure off of the kids and the parents as well. If you do feel that there is something that your child is involved in that you need some assistance, as we heard, your police department's here all the time. They're wonderful. I've been working with the city of Rye for many, many, many years, and they're a great department, very responsive. We are here for them. They're here for us. They're your first line. If you don't want to go to the police, come to your school. School administrators are wonderful as well, and they know where to find us. Contact the police or school authorities as soon as possible. Capture as many screen names, chats names. If there's conversations, take screen captures of them. Save things. Don't delete them off your phone. We need to see what's out there. We also need to be able to get this information from providers. We have the ability to compel providers to give us subscriber information, but we need to know what we're working with. Social media does not know me as Laura Forbes. They know me by my username that I created when I set up my accounts. So if somebody says Laura Forbes did something to me, Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Instagram doesn't know me as Laura Forbes. But if there's a picture of my profile, then that's what's needed in order to get the information. Understand that images that somebody thinks, well, it was on my Snapchat account and it disappeared. It's not always disappeared. We can still recover things. We do have an amazing forensic tools that we can be able to recover things. We can also get things from the providers. But we do ask that first line of defense is to be able to capture everything that you possibly can. Also, just think about, too, even if there's something that is not criminal that happens online, we have to think about non-criminal ramifications as well. Is our child going to look for a job at some point? I think we all hope so. Is our child going to apply to a summer job? Is our child going to apply to a private high school or a private college or even a public college, which is university? Trying to go for licensure, trying to work at a camp, or trying to even just be a babysitter. A lot of times schools and employers, potential employers, are asking for the access to the child's social media pages. So if your child is putting up all sorts of crazy stuff online, is the pictures, ask your child, is this what you want the world to think of you? because this could affect getting a job. It could affect getting into schools. And also, just even sending things out, a quick picture that the child may think disappears after 30, 60, 90 seconds. First of all, ask your child, what are you saying that you feel the need to have it disappear after 30 seconds? Because just like, hey, are you free tonight for dinner? I feel like a hamburger. You could just send that in a text. You don't have to worry about why is it going to disappear in 90 seconds. But understand that even those texts that disappear 30, 60, 90 seconds from now can still come back to haunt you. So will they come back to haunt you in that it'll cause you embarrassment, your family embarrassment, or even just getting a job? Also, any irresponsible behavior online that results in somebody getting damaged, either their reputation or physical damage to their property, maybe that could incur a lawsuit. So just like if you loan your vehicle to your child and your child gets into a motor vehicle accident, you as the parent or guardian is the one getting sued, not the child. So the same thing applies for online. There's libel, there's slander, there's all sorts of defamation claims. There can be a lot of civil claims. So you as the parent will be on the line for that. So everything that your child does online can reflect back on you as parents and guardians. And maybe that's part of the conversation that you should have with your children as well. So that's just basically it. Talk to your children. We are all here for you. The school is here for you. The police are here for you. The DA's office is here for you. The lines of communication are there. We want children to enjoy their times on social media, on the internet, on texting. Especially during COVID, we learned how important it is. But we have to make sure that our children are safe and that they're also not getting themselves into trouble as well. So with that, I'll answer any questions, or if our esteemed police officers have anything they want to add as well, anything that they're seeing, or if any of our school staff wants to add anything as well. Anything? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, thank you. Now it's your turn. I did want to go quickly because I know it's hard to be watching YouTube all this time. Sure. Yeah, sure.
When a child deletes an app, does that app totally disappear? How do I know the app